The world has produced many different talents, but music art is very sophisticated. We had Mozart Wolfgang in Austria, Europe, Michael Jackson in America. But when it comes to Africa during 20th century, no one will ever forget Franco Luambo Makiadi, the mobilizer. Congolese music is one of the most influential music forms in Africa continent since 1930. Congolese musicians have had a huge impact on the African musical scenes and everywhere. Congolese music influenced Kenya, Benga, and Colombian champeta. So, we are going to discuss more about the TPOK Jazz, the mobilizer, Franco Luambo Makiadi. He was born on July 6, 1938, in his motherland hometown of Sona Bata, in what was then the Belgium Congo. He grew up in the capital city, Leopoldville, now Kinshasa. His father, a railroad worker who died in 1949 when Franco was aged 10 to 11, forcing him to end his formal education and start helping his mother by playing a homemade guitar, harmonica, and other instruments to attract customers to her mother's market stall in Leopoldville, Ngiri neighborhood. He could borrow and work with Paul de Wayon Obengo, a slightly older friend who had a real guitar. In 1950, Franco at the age of 12 and de Wayon, age 16, and others formed a group called Watam, which played together in 3 years, in weddings and funerals, and with the help of mentor Paul Obengo de Wayon and established musician Albert Luambasi, they recorded few songs on the Ngoma record label. Despite all, Franco Luambo Makiadi was a major figure in 20th century Congolese music and African music in general, principally as the leader for over 30 years in TPOK Jazz, the most popular and significant African band of its time. He was nicknamed by fans and critics Sorcerer of the Guitar and the Grand Master of Zairean music. Franco and de Wayon auditioned producer Henry Bowane in 1953, then with Leopoldville's Loningisa record label, and a studio who hired both as a studio musician. Franco released at least 3 records in 1953, with Watam on Loningisa, on which he was credited as Luambo Francos. Also in 1953, Franco released on Loningisa his first solo record, Bolingo Nangai na Beatrice, I Am in Love for Beatrice, which made Franco a celebrity in Kinshasa. Franco was among a loose group of Leopoldville musicians in 1955 that began working together under the auspices of Loningisa Studio. The group was known as Bana Loningisa, Children of Loningisa. In 1956, an original founding core of 6 of those musicians, with Franco as their sole guitarist, agreed to accept a regular paid gig at the OK Bar, named after its owner, Oscar Kishana. A few weeks later, the band needed a name for a contract. The band used OK Jazz from the place it began. The OK stood for Orchestra Kenois, or the Band of Kinshasa, while the clarinetist Jean Sege Jesus was the original leader of the OK Jazz. Franco was prolific a songwriter. Jesus called him a kind of a genius. OK Jazz quickly became a rival to the leading established band of that time, African Jazz, under the founder of Rumba, Joseph Kabasele. In 1957, OK Jazz lost its leader, Jesus, as well as original vocalist Felipe Resoginol Lando, when they were hired away by Bowane for his new record label, Esengo. Bowane had left Loningisa after being outshined there by OK Jazz, while vocalist Vicky Longoba, the father to Awilo Longoba, became the band's new leader. After returning to Leopoldville after a year in Brazzaville, Franco was arrested and jailed for a motoring offense, later released and gained his Sorcerer of the Guitar. He was influenced that by the end of 1950, Congolese guitarists were divided into two camps, one led by Franco and other led by Dr. Nico of Joseph Kabasele African Jazz. In 1967, Franco was co-leader of the band with the vocalist Vicky. When Vicky left in 1970, Franco took control of the band leadership. Later, in 1978, Franco was imprisoned for 2 months by Zaire President Mobutu Sese Seko for the lyrics to his song Helen and Jackie, but later Mobutu decorated him for his musical contributions. Franco Luambo Makiadi was born a musician. The uniqueness and the talent made him record a 21-minute track. Na Lingaka Yoyote is the longest song recorded by a Congolese musician. Franco Luambo Makiadi always had a political bent, which he expressed in many of his songs. Franco was a political activist, and he had influence which he visited Mobutu Sese Seko. Soon after independence, Franco would sing a number of political songs, starting with the number by deputies Botika Mbilinga Mbilinga. Parliament, Stop the Confusion. He would follow this up with 2 more songs, Dr. Moise, Shombe, and the government Yakatanga Oriental. Franco's most memorable political song came following the death of Patrice Lumumba, the popular Prime Minister of Congo. The American CIA conspired with the Belgians and with the Mobutu Sese Seko to murder Patrice Lumumba. Mobutu, then a low-level soldier in Congolese army, had been Lumumba's personal secretary before betraying him. Following Lumumba's death, Franco composed the song Liwa ya Lumumba, the death of Lumumba. 4 years later, Mobutu became the head of the state. Following the military coup, all musicians were obligated to swear allegiance to Mobutu. Franco band TPOK JAZZ became one of the many state-sponsored bands. In fact, all top Zairean bands were sponsored by the state. The same year, Franco will release an album, A.O. Commented Authority. The song was in praise of Mobutu's takeover. It was a hopeful song in which he praised Lumumba and called Mobutu the second coming of Lumumba. Some horrific incident happened in Congo history in 1965. Soon after Mobutu ascended to power, he had promised to cede power to a democratically elected government. Soon, but it quickly became obvious that he had no intention of stepping down. In a bid to stamp his will on the people, Mobutu arranged the public hanging of 5 political dissidents, including Evariste Kimba, who had been the prime minister in the previous regime, and other ex-ministers. The large crowd witnessed the hanging, and Mobutu shocked the public Pentecostal hanging. It's unfortunate Franco was among many who had witnessed the public execution. As a result, he sang a song called Luvumbi Ndoki, Luvumbi de Sosara. It's Kikongo folklore used to accuse people who harm close family. The song was seen as accusation against Mobutu. It was immediately banned, and all copies that were on sale were immediately confiscated. Franco was arrested. After he was released, he flew to Brazzaville and returned 6 months later. Mobutu recruited Franco and TPOK JAZZ to accompany him on the propaganda tour of the entire country. They performed propaganda songs to large crowds, and TPOK JAZZ members had to wear Mobutu political party uniform, consisted of military fatigues. In 1984 election, Franco released what is probably the most famous propaganda piece in the history of Africa, the song Candidat de Biso Mobutu. Mobutu, our candidate, was sung with an air of inevitability. Personal life. Franco married twice. It's reported that he fathered 18 children. After touring Netherlands, Franco was noticed to have reduced his body. On the May 9, 1987, at the Africa Mama Festival, attended by an enormous audience, that was the last final concert which Franco appeared. Franco passed away on October 12 of 1989 at Namur in Belgium of AIDS. Mobutu announced 4 days of mourning. The government-owned radio broadcast played nothing but Franco song during those 4 days. Franco body laid in a state of Palace du Piolo. On October 7, the same year, Franco Luambo Makiadi, one of the greatest African musicians, was laid to rest at Gombe Cemetery in Kinshasa, Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you again for your time. This is your host, History Fly. If you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe for more content.